Given the events in Charlottesville, Virginia, this week's episode is a call for a personal response to white supremacy. I'm Rachael Keefe, and this is Monday's Muse. Most of us spent some part of the weekend watching the news coming out of Charlottesville. And many of us will, without question, condemn the actions of these groups that identify as Nazis, white supremacists, and Ku Klux Klan. It's not hard to say they're wrong, they're hateful, and we need to shut them down. Problem comes in when it hits closer to home. Because we will say, I don't think I know anybody who's a member of these groups. I don't think I know any of these people personally. And you might not either. But you know what? I know a lot of people who harbor a whole lot of racism. That they secretly believe that white folks are better than other folks. I know these people, and you know these people. The problem is that we haven't said much in response. We can point at our television sets and say that the Nazis are wrong, the white supremacists are hateful, and the KKK should not exist. We can say these things without hesitation. But can we confront the racism we see and hear in our everyday life? Can we confront that family member who at every family gathering has some racist thing to say? Can we confront our racist neighbor who spouts off against immigrants and Muslims and people who are supposedly ruining this country? Can we say something to our coworker who has that unfortunate racist joke almost every time you run into them? Can we bear witness when a law enforcement officer confronts a person of color? Are we willing to stand there with our video camera and bear witness? Are we willing to do any of these things? Most people say no, it's not my problem. You know what? It is our problem because our silence has fueled this renewed white supremacist movement. You wonder where Nazis come from in 2017? They come from silence from people like you and me. And if you know anything about history, you know the Nazis will not stop with people of color. They will move on through a list of people they hate and people they want to annihilate. We cannot afford to give them more power. We cannot afford to maintain the silence that we somehow think is right, that we have been led to believe the church shouldn't be political. Friends, the church needs to be political because if the so-called alt-right is a new political movement based on old and horrible racism and hatred, then we need to shut it down. And we need to start by opening our mouths and saying no to the racists in our lives and confronting our own racist thoughts in our own minds, in our own lives. The time for silence has long passed. You've heard me say this before, but the events of this weekend, the deaths of this weekend, the violence and vitriol of this weekend in Charlottesville renew the cry for those of us who have enjoyed the privilege of white skin to get out, say something, do something to end the hatred, to end the violence, to break down the systems that are built on racism so that we can rebuild a country that is actually based on care, compassion, hospitality, equal treatment of all human beings. It's a risk, but isn't it worth a risk to change the direction this country is heading? Isn't it worth a risk to our own personal comfort, safety, and relationships to put an end to this rising power that is filled with Nazis, with Ku Klux Klan, with white supremacists? What would you not risk to put an end to that? Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.